Today's guest is Carolyn MacCloud. She's the founder and owner of MAC5 Creative Marketing, a small independent marketing firm here in Boulder, Colorado. And today we talked about her background, how she started in the marketing world with a degree in mass communications, went into print distribution and sales, and then took a really interesting turn in helping her mother grow a business from her bedroom to the second largest women-owned business in Boulder County, and the struggles they went through as technology changed around the turn of the century, to bringing her back to launching a new agency as a smaller, leaner, more independent shop. We then turned to some tactical advice about marketing, how websites may or may not be strong for certain businesses, and how it's really critical to target the customer that you want in the place that they're going to find you. I think you'll really enjoy this interview, but remember to stick with us as we go through interviews in the future with some other really interesting guests. Without any further ado, welcome Carolyn MacCloud. Thanks for taking the leap, Carolyn, and thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and your business today.
Sure. So my business is called MAC5 Creative Marketing. It was started about 5 years ago. I have a very entrepreneurial background, and so I help small businesses better communicate with their customers through a variety of digital media.
Okay. Social media, searches, that sort of stuff? Yeah,
social media, SEO, website design. We do some graphic design, editorial content, email marketing, social media. So,
pretty much everything.
Yeah, the way that you communicate with your customers, we help you figure out where your customers are so that you can better communicate with them.
And is that really the mission, or what's kind of the mission behind MAC5?
The mission behind MAC5 is really to help small businesses. As a small business owner for 25 years, I understand a lot of the challenges that small businesses are faced with. And I think the biggest challenge that we're faced with is time. And so if I can help take something off of your plate that will help you save time, that makes it a value add. So I really want to be able to be there to help small business owners succeed.
Sure. And why did that become important to you? What made small business owners the thing that you really wanted to work with, or the types of businesses you really wanted to help?
Yeah, so for 16 years, my mom and I ran a company called CTSI, which stood for Cable Television Services Incorporated. And we, I watched my mom start this company in her bedroom, and we were successful in growing it to the second largest women-owned business in Boulder County. And so I watched a lot of her struggles. I was there with a lot of her struggles. I understood what a lot of our challenges were. And because of that knowledge, I think I really have a good understanding of how I can help small business owners succeed.
Sure. So you said your mom started it inside kind of the bedroom in the house. Were you going right out of school and just helping her in the family business, or what were you doing before you worked with her?
No, before I worked with her, I was graduated, and I was doing print sales in the Denver metro area. I had a degree already in mass communications. Okay. I did a lot of work with several newspapers in the Pueblo area, and also did some work at the PBS station down in Pueblo. And when I came back home, I was working in the Denver market. So I was already doing a lot of work, but she needed some help, and I was around.
Sure. So was that something where she just sort of voluntold you as her daughter, hey, you need to come help me with this stuff? Or did she ask you to come and help with the business, or was it your idea?
I don't remember how it kind of came about. I think it was more along the lines of just, as she needed help, she'd pull me in on various different projects. And I had a really good background in sales already, and understood marketing, and I understood kind of the sales process. So I think she just brought me in on various different projects from time to time, and then it just evolved into more of a full-time position with her.
Sure. So it wasn't necessarily a dedicated role at first. It was just sort of, hey, I need help here. Hey, I need help there.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Even now with my own business, I pull my family in from time to time on various different projects. So I think it was kind of the same mentality that she just needed help, and I was there.
Sure. Well, and it sounds like it worked out for the most part.
Yeah.
So where really for you did the idea come from to start MAC5 aside from your mom's company?
So I wanted to do things differently with MAC5. It wasn't necessarily that I had envisioned starting up MAC5 based on previous experience. It was just what I knew what to do. And so when I started up MAC5, I wanted to make sure that I did things a little bit differently. What had really gotten us in trouble is that we had really huge overhead for many, many years. We had employees on staff. We had a great benefits package. We had a beautiful office suite. And starting at MAC5, I knew that I didn't have those types of resources. Mm-hmm. And I also knew that I couldn't do it all myself. And so that's one of the reasons why I partnered with another company that was a little bit larger than I am. And it's been a very complementary partnership.
Sure. Tell me a little bit more about that. What are they doing for you, or what are they bringing to the table for you and your business?
Sure. So they really specialize in web and SEO, so website design and development, and then also the SEO. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the areas that I have kind of more of a downfall, because I'm not an IT person. I don't
Sure.
understand some of the technical things that go. I'm not a coder. I'm not a graphic designer. Mm-hmm. And so in working with them, they've been able to provide a lot of those things for me. And in return, I do all of their email marketing for their clients. And so it's been a really great partnership in that regard. So I'm their digital media manager, mm-hmm. and I handle several of their accounts for them personally, as well as their own internal email. And yeah, it's been a really great partnership. So it makes me have a much larger team, mm-hmm. and be able to still be a full service marketing agency. Mm-hmm. But what's really nice about it is that because I don't have the high overhead, my costs are so much lower than so many other like larger agencies Sure. that are out there. So I can be a lot more competitive, but I can still offer the top-notch service that companies are looking for.
Sure. Well, and I think you touched on something huge in there, which is, you said these are areas I'm not necessarily strong in. I think the trap so many business owners fall into early on is that they feel like they have to be everything. And that's a necessity right out of the gate, right? You start a business in your bedroom, and you're going to be the marketing director and the art director and the accountant and the HR person and everything else. But I think it's really critical for people to kind of realize early on where they add value to their own business and where they kind of need to get out of their own way and ask for help. So I think that's probably both smart within your own business and your partnership today, but also it's probably the same thing that brings some people into working with a marketing agency is, hey, it turns out I'm not a good artist. Hey, I'm not a good SEO person, or I don't know how any of this web stuff works. So I think that ends up being a realization that we all have to come to in our own way. But
Absolutely.
It's huge that you kind of have that right out of the gate. And beyond that, talking about the overhead of the first company and the costs of the first company, it just seems like you could easily drown a business simply by losing too many clients all at once or something like that, because those costs don't go away overnight. Mm-hmm. So you clearly have kind of been through that cycle of experience.
Oh yeah.
What was the thing you did, or what things did you do to make the transition from being an employee to being an owner?
I think because I was working with my mom, there was always that sense of ownership within the company itself. Mm-hmm. So, but I was also viewed so much differently as the child of the CEO.
Sure.
So I had to perform better. I had to try to be at a higher standard than most everybody else, so that I could, respect and just come because of who I was. I really had to earn that respect. Mm-hmm. So the transition for me was really very simple. I already had a good, solid understanding of what it took to run a business. I understood, how to take care of the books, and, looking at other opportunities and where do you look for some of those opportunities. And was really very seamless in a lot of ways, moving it from, her being the CEO to me being the CEO.
Sure. And what was the biggest challenge you really faced in the course of the business?
Oh gosh, we faced lots of challenges. I would say that the biggest challenges that we faced at that time was we were in the cable industry, and what we produced was the cable, your newsletter bill stuffer that you might find in your cable bill. And our biggest challenge is that we were starting to see a lot of mergers and acquisitions. Adelphia Communications was one of our largest clients at the time, mm-hmm. and they went bankrupt because of insider embezzling. And the CEOs actually ended up in prison, which is very unfortunate. So, we saw so many things that were happening within the cable industry itself. And yeah, those mergers and acquisitions, once they everything changes, the whole dynamic of the company changes, and working with the marketing directors and the marketing departments were changing. And so we no longer had kind of like that preferred vendor status within those organizations and those corporations.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So, I mean, your biggest company or your biggest clients kind of were going underwater. And I think we've probably seen that cable's not what it used to be, or it's not the Titan that it used to be. So, what was kind of the turning point there? What was the big, aha or oh no moment for you to realize that maybe that wasn't going to be the place to stay or the field to stick with?
So when I rebranded the company to Communicate and Grow, and even with MAC5, I realized that you have to keep up with trends, that there are so many things that are happening within the digital marketing arena that you have to be able to keep up with those trends in order to, be able to communicate successfully or communicate the messages successfully with your clients. So I've tried to stay up on trends, but also, I guess, just understanding that small businesses have those challenges too, and making sure that I'm able to be there to help them through some of those challenges just based on my own knowledge and my own experience that I've been through.
Mm-hmm. So you come out of Communicate and Grow. You make the kind of decision to launch MAC5 immediately, or is that something that you picked up a couple years on?
No. So in 2013, I actually closed the doors on Communicate and Grow.
Okay.
And I went to work for corporate America. I went to work for Constant Contact as a marketing manager, and I learned a lot with Constant Contact. And it was the first time I'd ever gotten laid off. And so when I finally got laid off, I was like, oh gosh, now what do I do?
Sure.
And so that's when MAC5 was actually formed. Was after, about 2 years in corporate America, I said, I'm just going to go back to what I know how to do. And that's running a business, and that's helping small businesses market their message successfully.
Sure. So what really motivated you or took, you said kind of getting back to what you already know, but what really took you or pushed you to the point where you said, I'm going to do this again? Because a lot of people try to start a business, or they try to pick up a hobby and grow it into something at some point. But a ton of people fail, right? Small businesses fail more often than they succeed. You'd taken a company from your mom's bedroom to being the second largest female-owned business in Boulder County, to having to close the doors, and that's a huge blow, right? Kind of that expression, the higher the mountain, the further to fall. So, what really gave you the motivation or the prompt to say, I'm going to do this again, I'm going to do it differently?
The business owners that I work with, you guys are passionate about what it is you guys do. And I'm very passionate about wanting to make sure you guys succeed. I had an opportunity to work with a lot of smaller business owners, and I've worked with really large corporations for most of my career. And when I worked at Constant Contact, I got a chance to work with much smaller organizations, people that were like the house cleaning lady who also had a passion to help cancer survivors, or I worked with another company, and they were very passionate about helping smaller kids understand what it was like to be bullied. And so to see their passion was just something that was so incredible to me. And I wanted to be a part of that. And the more that I network and meet other business owners, I can see that passion coming through in what they're doing to help their customers. So it's become my passion to help them reach those customers.
Sure. I share that. I think you get an opportunity, particularly when you work business to business, to really look under the hood, or look behind the curtain and really see what's happening at these organizations. Right? They're not just a manufacturer, they're not just a service company, but they're people really pursuing something. Yeah. And you get to see them at these sort of different stages that just really kind of proves to be enlightening. So what are you doing in your business now? You talked about your services, but really, where are you taking MAC5?
So I'm taking MAC5. I'm in the process of growing it. And I have no idea where I'm taking MAC5. I really have no clue. It's growing. I will say that much. It's definitely growing. I guess, wherever it goes, it goes. I hope it never goes away in all reality, because I do love what I do. I love being there for small businesses. I love the marketing aspect. I love the strategic, how do we get from this is our end result, and how do we get to our end result when we're starting way back here, and kind of working backwards to try to figure out that whole process, and how do we make all of this work together, and what pieces do we pull in? Does it make sense to pull in the email marketing piece, or does it make sense to pull in social media, or what makes sense about any of it?
Sure.
So yeah, I'm just along for the ride right now, and we'll see where it goes.
Well, fair enough. Do you maybe see it being a more of a lifestyle business where you're going to try to get to just that core of clients that you really love working with and you're just going to stick with them? Or do you see yourself trying to make it kind of communicate and grow 2.0?
I've thought about kind of a communicate and grow 2.0. You know, if I grow big enough, I definitely would love to be able to be in a place where I can hire on some employees. Sure. And then, you know, there's always that, you know, that passion project that I think as employee, you know, as entrepreneurs, there's always something that we're very, very passionate about. And, you know, I definitely have a different passion other than marketing, but at the same time, they kind of somewhat kind of go hand in hand, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Those are really hard questions to answer right now.
Well, and sometimes that's kind of the great unknown, right?
Right.
You know, I chose to call this taking the leap because at the end of the day, when you start a business, you have an idea, you have a vision, hopefully you've got a plan and a strategy. But really, a big piece of it actually comes back to a comic I saw one time, and it's a guy jumps off a cliff, and you know, he's jumping off, and there's a bunch of junk around him. And as he's falling, he builds it into a plane and kind of takes off in midair. And I think that's the experience sometimes. You know, we have an intent. We hope we get somewhere before we hit the bottom of that particular jump.
Right.
But I think we all experience that at some level. I can't say that I know almost any business owners who've kind of made it, as it were, who really thought it was going to be what it turned into. So I think that's kind of an exciting part of being where you are in this new enterprise. Just kind of turning the corner here a little bit, what sort of tools of the trade do you really use? What do you find to be the most valuable things for somebody in a marketing firm to bring to the table to help their clients with that maybe their clients don't have access to or the experience to really make good use of?
I think it's my knowledge of what works well. You know, plus they're also very time starved. I think a lot of business owners think that they can do the marketing all on their own, but they necessarily can't.
Sure.
What tools do I utilize? I utilize a lot of tools, but I'm not sure.
Well, let me ask you there just for a moment, because you've talked about time a couple of times, giving business owners time back, as well as kind of the knowledge of what works and committing the time. Do you find that the time commitment challenge business owners have is a problem of just never doing it or never having enough time to do it, or they have time but they don't dedicate enough time to it so that it never quite gets consistent enough to really be successful?
Yeah, I don't think they have. Well, I think both scenarios. Either they don't have enough time, or it's one of those things that gets pushed onto the back burner. I'll get to it tomorrow kind of attitude. Sure. You know, our marketing always seems to get pushed aside because, you know, you're sitting here right in front of me. I need to focus on you. That can wait, right? So I think that's the mentality that a lot of business owners have. And then the other piece is that they just don't know how to do it.
Sure. Well, and to that extent, right, it always confused me, right? I have my master's in business administration, so I should know something about business. And the thing that blew my mind when I came out of grad school was, if you'd asked me right then and there, as they were handing me my diploma, hey, how do you start a business? I would have gone, I don't know. Right, so you get people who come in from the trades. They're plumbers, they're carpenters. You get doctors, you get dentists, you get all these different sorts of people. But we went to school to be experts at something, right? At our particular trade or our craft. And I think sometimes the minutia of running a business really doesn't come through. I remember talking to a chiropractic clinic one time, and they hadn't had their books updated in a year and a half. And I'm sitting there almost choking on just my own air, just because I can't fathom being in a business where you don't know, kind of what money's coming in, what's going out, what your expenses are, all that stuff. But it never crossed their mind. There was always money in the bank account, so it was just never a problem. So I think there's all the sorts of things that we don't think about as business owners because we don't know to ask the question, or it's kind of working. So we never really look outside of what's kind of working to figure out what could work better.
Right.
So, I mean, past kind of the question of resources, what's really the biggest surprise to you in owning a business?
How much time it takes.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah, I mean, you're everything. From as a small business owner, you're everything. Yeah. You're everything. You're the janitor. You're the bookkeeper. You're, the salesperson. You're it.
Sure.
And it takes a lot of time. And it's easy to get pulled into multiple different directions at once.
Yeah. It's interesting. Somebody once, I can't remember who it was. I want to say it was on a video or some keynote speaker, some famous person who's smarter than I am. But they made the point that your business is like a child or a partner or even a client in of itself, and it's demanding, and it will never give you an inch, and it never really gives in, right? It's always asking for something. It's always demanding these compromises of your time and your energy. So
it's not appreciative. It doesn't care if you sleep. It doesn't care if you eat.
It does not. It's actually a big fan of you skipping this.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's, I mean, at the same time, when the business is at the end of the day, right, you have to find time for that stuff. And let alone, it kind of comes back to the why of the business. You want to help people or do something, but why put yourself through it? Because, I think you and I probably both know a ton of business owners could make way more money just showing up at someone else's office at 9 and leaving at 5, right? And they'd have better pay, they'd have better benefits, they'd have better control over their time, right? They'd sleep better at night. So it's just such a stressor for some folks, and the time just is probably one of the biggest pieces of it. You start your business and you don't have any business to work on, so you have all the time in the world that you should be spending it building your business. And then you go through and you finally get some business, and then, like you said, you get distracted, stuff starts going on the back burner, so your business slows down, but you have enough business to keep going, and it just gets away from you so easily.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of equate it to, whether you own or rent. I'd much rather own my home and build equity in my home rather than renting something and building somebody else's equity. And it's the same with my business, because I've waffled back and forth over the last 3-4 years since I got laid off from Constant Contact, with a lot of life hitting at once, in various different aspects of my life. Does it make more sense to go back to corporate America, where I know I have some job security, where I know I would have good benefits, I know I'm working from 8 to 5, I probably will have weekends off, I'm not working 24/7, but I'm building somebody else's business. And this is building my business, and this is building my future, and I have control over my future now, and I don't want somebody to have control over my future.
That's huge. I think that's really huge.
So that's why I keep putting one foot in front of the other.
So, I mean, just speaking of the future, what do you think is the direction of the field of marketing? Where do you think kind of the industry or the business is going?
Well, we're in a very digital age right now. A lot of people have said that, print is kind of dying. I don't know how much print will come back. But the millennial population is really into print, and they're really into books, and they want things that are tangible. So we may end up seeing a switch where digital may be more of a luxury than what it is now as a necessity.
Now, what do you think is going to drive that? Do you think it's going to be something like nostalgia, where we just sort of miss having like magazines or newspapers, or do you think that it's more of just a life cycle thing, that things just sort of kind of come around, that which was old is new?
It may be a combination of both. I've always, whenever I hear that print is dead, I've always kind of cringed, because print was kind of the first thing that I got involved with marketing. But as humans, we want to touch something. We want to be able to feel something. It's hard to get the same kind of message, because we've got such a low attention rate, our attention span, that when you're scrolling through something, I don't think you get the gist of it as much as you do if you're holding it in front of you. And I think that we're seeing a switch with that with the younger generations, because they grew up with this technology in their hands before they could even talk, a lot of them. And I think they're wanting to get back to something that has more substance to it.
So do you think we're ever going to go such full circle that there are people who are just foregoing the whole digital thing, right? Like they won't have an email, they won't have Facebook or LinkedIn or any of that sort of stuff?
I do already see some of that, where people are just like, I'm disconnecting. I'm shutting it all down. I don't want any part of it anymore. It's too distracting for me. I waste too much time on it, and it's not productive.
Now, how does that come into something like a marketing strategy? Do you just kind of keep an eye on those folks as a population that could grow and become maybe a better audience for other means? Or do you kind of call those the outliers and really focus on I'm guessing what is probably the majority of folks, which is, we have our laptops, and we have our Facebook and our Twitter and our Instagram and all this different stuff?
Well, in this day and age, you really have to be very conscious of how you communicate with all the different populations. The way you would talk to and market to a baby boomer is so much different than you would talk to a Gen Y individual or a millennial. So I think you just need to keep that in check whenever things start to evolve and change, is where are your clients at? Because where your clients at, that's where we want to send the message.
Sure.
It doesn't make sense to do Facebook if your clients aren't on Facebook. It doesn't make sense to do, any kind of advertising, at the local gym if your clients aren't going to be at the local gym. So we need to figure out where your clients are so that we can give that message out.
Sure. I want to get your kind of professional opinion on a couple really targeted parts of kind of the marketing world. So what are your thoughts on things like not billboards, but posters or signs at something like your local gym? Do you think that hyper-targeted, really localized physical marketing is worth it, or do you think we're in the wrong part of the cycle for that?
No, I still think that there's a place for it. I think it really depends on what it is that you're trying to target. If you were to put up signage for a nonprofit about a special event coming up, it makes sense for every window on Main Street to have that sign in their doorway.
Sure.
If you're putting on a seminar, you may not want to put up a poster at your local gym. You may want to put a poster up at the university level, or looking at other places to do those types of things. So I think that there's still a need for that. It's just how strategic you are in placing those, and where you place them.
Sure. What do you think was maybe the best ROI anybody could have right now in the marketing space?
Email marketing.
Email marketing. I know for myself and a lot of folks, we hop into our email and we open it up and we've got two actual personal emails and like 19 things from Groupon and OpenTable and Best Buy. So what do you think makes email marketing still so valuable?
So when you're looking at like the Groupons or the Best Buys, you've signed up for those in one way or another. And I do think that a lot of those larger corporations really kind of overkill it sometimes with emails. And I probably would bet that they have a pretty high unsubscribe rate. But when somebody comes to your website and they actually subscribe to get your newsletter, the chances of you turning that into a client is so much greater than if you were to have found them on Facebook or anywhere else, even in a networking event.
Sure.
So when you start to look at some of the numbers with the return on investment for email marketing, for every dollar that you spend, you should be expecting about a 38% return. So it's $38 for every dollar that you spend on email marketing. You can't find that kind of return on investment on any other kind of marketing. We've done Google AdWords for a variety of different companies, and as much as I think that Google AdWords have a place in all of this, they're so incredibly expensive. I've also watched small business owners go almost bankrupt by doing like some of the Groupon advertising and or like Angie's List or like some of the home improvement things, because they're sending you these viable leads, or they're sending you leads.
Sure.
You don't know how viable they are. You may or may not be able to get to them, but you're paying for those leads. So if you can increase your SEO so that you're being found where your customers are searching for you organically, they sign up for your newsletter, your chances of converting that customer are so much greater than any other form of advertising or marketing that's out there right now.
Sure. What do you think is maybe the biggest waste of money in the marketing space right now?
I think a lot of people tend to overcharge for websites.
Okay.
Truthfully, I think you don't have to have a big fancy website anymore at all, as long as you have an online presence. I know a lot of businesses who just have a Facebook, or they'll, a restaurant may not even have a website, but they're utilizing Yelp and other forms that are out there so they can be found. It's about being found. It's not necessarily about having the biggest, best website.
Sure. Do you think that's more of a problem than with the website just being over-invested, right? You've got a big fancy website, but all you really needed was a business card online? Or do you think that the websites just aren't designed to convert well?
I think some of them aren't designed to convert well.
Sure.
I think, you need to be very simple with your websites. I think you need to be very clear in your message. I think you need to tell the story with more graphics and be very clear and concise in your messaging to your customers, because people aren't going to poke around your website. If it's too cumbersome to get around, they're not going to click through over to where you want them to, or to try even contact you if they're feeling lost in your website.
Sure. So just to kind of turn that best and worst question around, what's really the best thing you've ever done in your business?
I don't know if there's really a best thing I've ever done. I mean, growing CTSI to the second largest women-owned business in Boulder County is pretty prestigious, and very, very proud of that fact. I think just getting up and doing it day after day, not knowing what the day is going to bring some days, and not knowing always how to approach the day. There's always challenges that you have to face in a small business, and I guess I'm just up for the challenge most days.
Sure. And what was the biggest mistake? Or the worst thing that ever happened?
The worst thing that ever happened? I guess not understanding sometimes the market and keeping up with the changes. We were in print for so many years and we didn't keep up with some of the changes. Mm-hmm. And so when I took over Communicate and Grow, I brought in more of the digital aspects of it, but it almost seemed like we were too little too late. So sure. I think trying to keep up on those trends is so important for any small business owner, no matter what industry you're in, because you're looking at those opportunities. And so if you're not keeping up on some of those trends, those are missed opportunities for you.
Fair enough. Well, is there anything you would like to share with kind of your fellow business owners or any future entrepreneurs? Any lessons learned or wisdom for the world?
Follow your passion. Definitely follow your passion, and know that, with success comes a lot of failures, mm-hmm. but with failures comes a lot of growth.
Well, I think there's some pretty succinct wisdom in there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, I think that was a fantastic interview. Carolyn really knows her stuff, and I mean, I can't even begin to imagine the experiences she's had growing a business to that size, having to take it down and starting all over again from scratch. Stick with us in the future as we explore with other business owners their experience in taking the leap into starting their own business and the lessons they've learned along the way. I think you'll really enjoy. Thanks for being with us today. We'll see you soon. Taking the Leap is filmed in Longmont, Colorado. Produced by Jeff Zimmerman. Audio and visual by M3 Films. Taking the Leap is a program by My Wealth Planners, an independent, fee-only registered investment advisor.